being in a wheelchair, I come across a lot of different people. Most people are really nice, you know, if they see that I'm trying to open a door or trying to pick something up off the ground, they'll ask me, you know, do you need a hand with that? Are you right? And, you know, that's all well and good. But every now and then I come across those not so nice people. The first people that I will tell you about in this story, very nice people. I was on my way home from the gym. I crossed at the roundabout and I was just in the middle of the roundabout. And there was two pedestrians that followed after me. And one of them, there was a young girl and a young guy. The guy flagged down for the cars to stop for me. Unnecessary, but if they're gonna be nice enough to do something like that for me, yeah, I'll accept it. And so the cars had stopped, but because it was a double lane, and there was so many cars that were already lined up, I crossed at the middle, but I sort of slowed down in the middle just to make sure that there wasn't another car coming into the next lane. And surely enough, yes, there was another car coming. And the car just hit the brakes, stopped suddenly, and I sort of had to go, because they were like parked directly in front of me. So then I had to go around behind the car and then back around and awkwardly get up the little, well, it's not a step, but the little ramp thingy. And all well and good. Okay, no problem solved, no issue. And then the guy in the car started yelling all sorts of profanity and swearing and yelling at the young man that helped me to get across the street. And then the young guy should have just said, nah, just brush it off. But he sort of was like, shut up, I'm trying to help a girl get across the street, show some respect for the disabled, and a little bit over the top dramatic, but yeah, I get where he was coming from. It was a lovely thing for him to help me get across the street. But the guy in the car sort of went a little bit too far with what he was saying. He was shouting all sorts of words that I will not say on camera. And then the young guy sort of took the bait and then kept yelling at him. And then eventually when the guy in the car seen me, he's like, oh, I'm really sorry, darling. I didn't see you. I think you should get a flag on your chair so that your cars can see you. I understand where he was coming from to say that, but what I said to him was, no thanks, I don't want to emphasize that I'm in a wheelchair. And that's exactly it, because I'm in a wheelchair. I've been in a wheelchair for almost 7 years, and that was the only time in this entire time that I've been in a wheelchair that I've ever had an issue with getting across the street. I have never had a problem with crossing the street. I've never had a problem with traffic or anything like that. And it's like, he's not in my shoes. He should get out of my head, get out of my space, and, you know, keep your opinions to yourself, really. I don't have a flag on my chair because I don't feel like I need it. It's sort of written all over me, hey, I'm in a wheelchair. All right, is that not enough? And my chair is really high. The seat is very high. My head height would probably be at, I don't know, a 12-year-old's height, maybe a very short 12-year-old actually. But yeah, I just had to get that little bit out off my chest just there. So the story continues, and the man in the car is still shouting out profanity to this young guy that was nice enough and decent enough to help me get across the street, and still shouting at him. And then when the young guy goes over to the man in the car grabs a hold of his arm and starts swinging at him like he is going to hit him. This all being at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There is cars everywhere. This is the most busiest and hectic roundabout in town, and This car has stopped in the middle of it all and is trying to pull this guy into the car so he can take a swing at him. All for him helping a girl in a wheelchair to get across the street. Do you understand the stupidity of the man in the car to take it that one step too far? I can understand both situations and both scenarios about the man in the car, where his perspective is, and the pedestrian that helped me to get across the street. And when he talked to me after, the young man, he said to me, he's like, I hate it when people don't respect the disabled, and like, I've got ADHD and I've got a learning disability. And I'm like, yeah, well, I totally understand. Like, I've known a guy that had ADHD and I know what that's like. Well, I don't personally know what it's like, but you know, I can sort of understand that. And I just had no idea how this little scenario just escalated to the way it did, for this man in the car to get so, like, the young guy actually said that he'd been drinking. He'd probably smelt it on his breath or something, but with the profanities that was coming out of his mouth, I wouldn't doubt it. And being in Orange, living here, I'm not actually surprised that the guy would be driving drunk. I don't really know how to tell the rest of the story, because there is really no rest of the story. That was just it. It was a little bit of an awkward scenario and a situation to be in. I was like, okay, I sort of got stuck in the middle of it. I had to stay. Like, I didn't want this man to be abusing the pedestrian guy that helped me to get across the street, and I couldn't do anything about it really if anything happened. But that was a bit of an awkward situation to be in. Something else that I could tell you about, another story. This was probably about, well, a few months ago, I don't know how long ago, but I was on my way downtown, and this was just I was on my way towards this same roundabout, but there's the RSL club and then there's the roundabout, and I was going past the RSL club. And because I have my blind side, so if I'm looking directly ahead, so if I'm looking directly at the camera, I can only see the camera. There is this whole spot here that I cannot see. There's a partial spot over here and up here that I can see. Apart from that, it's all completely blind. So I wasn't going overly fast. I just was on my way home, and somebody had stepped in front of me, because on this side there was Kmart's on that side, and you can cross the street and there's like one of those little safety barrier things in the middle, and then there's another little flat part where taxis usually pull up. And the lady had been walking along there, and she had walked literally straight in front of me. So I didn't see her, and I didn't know that she was there until she was literally right in front of me. And by that point, like, the speed of my chair, and my chair doesn't stop very quickly. It stops pretty fast if I pull it back, but I had no response time. I had no time to stop, and so I ran into her leg. I felt absolutely dreadful. I did not feel happy at all that I had run into her leg. After I'd said, I'm so sorry, are you okay? And she was sort of like, she looked like she was in shock. She was just like, and I was saying, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you, I have a blind side. And then this idiot in a car, just sitting along in the car park, just sitting there, like, he didn't even bother getting out of the car or anything. If he really wanted to have a go at me, then get out of the bloody car. But he's sitting in his car and he's yelling out, you should have slowed down. And he was yelling all this shit to me when I was trying to apologize to this lady. Listen, I'm really sorry. And all I could hear, you should have slowed down. This idiot just yelling out of his car. I just eventually, when he just wouldn't stop, I just said, shut your mouth, wanker. And that's probably the first time since I was, what, like 12 that I had used the word wanker. But that's what he was. He was a bloody wanker just sitting in his car. If he really had a problem, get out of your bloody car and say it to my face, you know? Don't sit in your car and yell out, oh, you should have slowed down. He has no idea just how my chair works. If you want to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, you gotta know just how to handle a power wheelchair. I know how to handle a power wheelchair, but there is that odd occasion that things like that happen, and it's not the best scenario to be in, but it, you know, shit happens sometimes. On the odd chance that stuff like that does happen, it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it does. It just gives me the shits when people decide that they want to put out their point of view and say, you should have done this, you should have done that, or get a flag on your chair so that the cars can see you. Well, the guy that helped me get across the street, the young man, he was flagging the cars to slow down. There was a big lineup of cars that had actually stopped, so they all saw him. But then there was this one guy in a car that didn't see a very tall young guy flagging like this. He didn't see him. So to get the shits with him saying, oh, I didn't see you. Well, I could understand if he didn't see me. Yeah, that's fine. I get it. But the fact that he should have seen this other guy that was flagging at the cars to slow down or to stop, it just blows my mind. Like, some people are just idiots. Some people need to think about what they do and how they say things, and I don't know. But I think it was just the heat of the moment, the end of the day, everybody'd finished work and everyone was just over it, wanting to go home. And then I think this guy must have had a little bit to drink at work because he sounded a little bit out of it, and otherwise, maybe he's just one of those guys that just says the F word in every single sentence that they say. Note that I don't say that word. Well, actually, I do say the F word on occasions, but I never say the C word. That's the one word that I won't say. And the moral to my story? Well, there is really no moral to my story. I'm gonna leave it at that, and I'll see you guys next time.